Hello, beautiful souls. I sincerely apologize for not having the measurements. Ironically, I had a video clip with the measurements for the top portion of the box, which is the lid. However, I have no idea what happened to the video clip for the bottom portion with the measurements. I still feel it's a good DIY reference, and you decide how big or small you want to create your gift box and your theme. Here I'm using these corner brackets that I purchased from a YouTuber who makes them, who sells them. However, she does live in Spain, so for those who won't be able to communicate with her in Spanish, I won't recommend these. We Are Memory Keepers have something similar to this, and they're called corner guides, so that's more convenient, especially for us who live here in the US, to be able to have access to. These are perfect, I mean really perfect, when creating boxes where it doesn't become wonky, you know. It's not, sometimes creating boxes will have where it shifts and it looks like a diamond shape or a little bit off. Well, these will keep it in place. These actually keep it in place, and I highly recommend them. This, of course, will be another expense and another tool in our craft area, but sometimes having certain things does make our crafting flow easier. I, for one, have been guilty of shopping more than I craft. This is like taboo. We don't really talk about this, but I know that a lot of us are having this experience. Let's face it, we are all an addictive species, whether it's physical or behavioral. Physical addiction is drugs, and when I mean drugs, I mean prescription drugs, cocaine, marijuana, PCP, and then there's alcohol, opioids, all of that, right? And then there's behavioral addiction. So behavioral addiction could be anything from food addiction, sex addiction, internet addiction, pornography addiction, exercise, believe it or not, exercise addiction, video game addiction, work addiction. There's also spiritual obsession, not to be confused with religious devotion. Like when you have devotion, that's something entirely different. But there are people who can be overly religious, and it's an obsession. And this is another obsession, and it's not limited to addiction, which is gossip. Gossip is also a form of addiction. I know we all have somebody that we know or family members that just can't help themselves, and they just gossip and gossip and gossip. Then the first thing we do when waking up in the morning is pick up our phones, get into social media or the internet, and we do it religiously, like it's our first nature. The way we start off our day sets the tone for the rest of the day. And we do that routinely. There's an addiction there when doing that. If we can't help but to do it, and now we're doing it where we're not even thinking about it. We also have to include social media addiction. And of course, there's shopping addiction. Most of us don't know why we do what we do or feel how we feel. That's for us to explore individually with help, however we feel comfortable doing that, whether it be through therapy, a group setting, your religion, your spirituality, even journaling, getting your thoughts out on paper. We here have an amazing community with talented crafters where all they do is create journals for us to use as a reference, especially if you're a beginner. Whether it be physical addiction or behavioral addiction, understand that this is how we cope with whatever emotional balance we have. This is how we're coping. So you get no judgment from me. We all are on different levels of awareness, so we only can do what we know how to do. In other words, we're doing the best that we can with the level of awareness that we're in. We all have levels of trauma due to our learned behaviors because of our experience growing up, our environment, especially if we were harmed in any way. I grew up dysfunctional, so my emotional needs were not being met. They were pretty much neglected. And then there was a lot of physical and emotional abuse, mental abuse. Can you relate to that? And as a child, a 4-year-old child, I suffered sexual abuse. My mom and my stepdad were also doing the best they can in their level of awareness. They also have trauma. So that's how they were coping. Because I'm in a different space now, I look at them with my soul, not with my ego. Otherwise, I would still feel an uncomfortable amount of trauma, and therefore feeling triggered every time we're in each other's presence. I have a great deal of healing my childhood experiences. However, I at times still feel like a motherless child. I personally practice spirituality to help me with my traumas. And crafting helps too. It helps me shift from a lower frequency where pain, hurt, attachment, even reacting, etc. resides. It ends up shifting to a higher frequency where love, humility, understanding, empathy, and then some flows. And a part of that spiritual practice is breathing into the moment, where if I'm feeling upset, angry, or hurt, although it may be justified, and be in control, because then I'm empowered. Versus losing control, feeling triggered, and reacting, because then I give my power over to people, and now they have control over my emotions and manipulate them all they want. That makes me feel drained when I've allowed that to happen. Have you ever felt like that? So connecting to my breath helps my mind to be stilled, to allow divine intervention, intercede, to take over and drive the train, because it will stay on course and not derail. So what that does with the angry feelings, the hurt feelings, feeling upset or even frustrated, what that does is we're not suppressing it. When we allow ourselves to connect with our breath, to breathe and just focus on our breath, that intervention, those feelings just disappears like smoke, like poof, it's gone. That is a part of my spiritual practice, and that's how I cope. Also understand that we are not our experiences. It's just an experience that we've had, or that we may be having. That's all. And we can let them go. Here on a different note, it's more convenient to add color to the texture paste or whatever medium you're using. In my case, I used compound rather than painting over it, especially when using an intricate pattern with fine lines. It will definitely save time. I want to work smarter, not harder.